All right, welcome. My name is Melissa Romano, and Jessica Lazaro and I will be presenting today on recycling in Haverford. So the first thing we want to talk about is where all of our waste goes, not just recycling, but everything, but recycling especially, that's why you're here. All of our recycling that you put curbside goes to the Republic Recycling Material Recovery Facility. It's called a MRF for short, and they're located in King of Prussia. Um, so when you put your cans outside, it's all mixed in. Public Works takes it to this recycling center, and they're separated for different industries to be able to use. A couple of things we wanted to note. One, a lot of people are confused about the glass, thinking that we don't recycle glass, or why do we have a glass bin that people go to separately. So unfortunately, we make way too much materials in this earth, and we can't really use it all. And because of a lot of contamination, especially food, sometimes things aren't able to be recycled if they're not clean. So currently, any glass that you put in your can that gets picked up by Public Works and taken to this facility is not recycled, it's reused. It's reused for landfill cover. It keeps pests away, keeps odors down, things like that. So it's still beneficial to use. But if you really want your glass to be recycled, you would bring it to our bin, and we'll talk about that in a second. So then plastic is the worst product to be recycled. It has a lot of downsides to it. It's very hard to recycle plastic. Only 10% actually gets recycled. So at the MRF, at the recycling facility, all plastic is separated 1 through 7. We take it all. Currently, only number 1 and 2 are the most valued. They're the most used. Our recycling facility does have a capacity for number 5, but the rest of them really aren't useful. We don't have anywhere for them to go. However, we do collect them and they do sort them. To note with plastic, things are baled in their different numbers, and they will sit at that facility for about 12 months for a year. And if they are not bought and used and recycled, it then ends up in the trash stream. So unfortunately, we do not have the industry, the manufacturing facilities, the need for plastic, and we'll get into why in the next slide. So I'm going to move on to trash. Our trash is incinerated at, just last year it was renamed to Reworld, but it was formerly called Covanta, and this is an incinerator in Chester. And incinerators are not an ideal solution. They market it as trash to steam. It makes energy for us. That is true. But landfills and both incinerators have a lot of downsides, a lot of environmental impacts, pollution to our air, water, land. They release nitrogen oxide, PFAs, lead, mercury, and other particulate matter into our air and our water. So really ideally, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have trash. We would be able to reuse all our materials and have a circular cycle, but that's not the reality we live in. And in this workshop, hopefully you'll realize where you can create less waste. One thing to note about the incineration is that they do recover metal. So if there is metal in your trash, they will be able to recover it in the end process. But then after everything's incinerated, you're left with some highly toxic ash that is then landfilled. So it's not completely wasteless at that point. The next waste that we have is our water. Our water is treated at a facility in Southwest Philadelphia. One of the things we wanted to note with that is that any food, like if you have a garbage disposal and it goes into the water, it is anaerobically digested. So that would be more ideal than landfilling the waste. So if you have a garbage disposal, use that for your scraps rather than throwing your scraps in the trash, or you'll learn about composting, which would be the best thing yet. Next, we have our leaves, our brush, our Christmas trees, all these outdoor items. Leaves is a paid service. As taxpayers, we are paying for this service, but they do get exported to be composted. And then the brush is actually a free service provided by the township. Public Works will pick up your brush and turn it into mulch and will be used in our local parks and trails. So that's a great service. And then brush is not collected in the wintertime as we're doing snow removal and Christmas tree pickup. So I forgot to check, but I I think our last Christmas tree pickup's supposed to be Monday. There might be a delay on that with the snow coming. We will see what happens. All right, so real quick about brush, we just want to make sure that the guidelines are clear. In the past, we used to take bags. We no longer do. We have a company that picks it up. We have to follow their rules. They do not accept bundles. Things need to be 1.5 inches in diameter and less than 3 feet long. They should be loose in a container. And they are picked up on Mondays unless there's a holiday or Christmas tree collection, etc., things like that. They do not take grass, leaves, dirt. It's really just some sticks and limbs from trees. All right, so a little bit on recycling now. Let's move on to the main topic. Single stream started in the 1990s. If you're a little bit older, you might remember that we used to separate our recycling. We'd have one pickup for plastic, one for metal, one for paper, but in the 90s it became single stream, and that's to make it easier on the homeowner, not on the industry. In 2017, there was a crisis in the recycling industry, you could say. Before 2017, here in America, we used to export our recycling to other countries and leave them to deal with the sorting and the reusing and recycling process. And in 2017, a lot of those companies had way more recycling than they know what to do with, and they no longer take it from us. So at that time in 2017, there was a little scramble. What do we do? So now we're trying to create that manufacturing industry here to be able to keep everything in-house and recycle properly. Recycling is required by law for a large township, and yes, we do recycle, no matter what rumors you hear on community groups. I have a little video for our MRF Center. It's a really great video. However, it's always problematic. We realize that I can't show you a video that's off of the web. I'd have to download it myself to be able to do that, and I don't know how to do that. So I'll briefly tell you about it. At the end, we will email these slides, and there will be a video on this. And if you want to look it up, that is the website that has a really good video. It's only a couple minutes long, explaining how the recycling facility works. So basically, when all of this intermingled recycling ends up at this facility, it does need to be sorted, right? So there's a whole conveyor belt system, and there is some metal that will, or some magnets that will remove the metal. There's slots for paper to fall through. There's air, blow-in plastic. So there's a whole system to separate it. But in addition to that, there's also paid workers that are manually sorting out, picking out things that don't belong and making sure that everything is sorted. We have a little in-house recycling program here that hopefully Jessica will be able to log into and explain. And that is all done by volunteers in the township. So when we get to that point, it's important to know that us volunteers are putting our time sorting a lot of things, and we are not paid as the MRF centers are. Just a couple facts on plastic. Like I said, plastic, only 10% of plastic is really recycled, which is sad. Roughly an entire dump truck of plastic is polluting our oceans every minute. And it takes about 450 years for a plastic bottle and 200 years for a plastic bag to break down into then microplastics that are polluting our water and land. And here in America, we use about 100 billion water bottles and 10 billion plastic bags every year. So we use a lot of plastic, and it's not properly recycled. So we will talk a little bit later about how to avoid or reduce your plastic use, because it is problematic to recycle. Recycling in our township is, you have to put your recycling in a container. It should not be bagged. So containers are available at Public Works for $35, or you can get these handy little stickers. They are at Public Works office in the township building. They're free. You can attach it to any can you want to use. And you can even get a brand new can if you're a new resident to the township within 6 months of moving. Just stop in and let them know your address and when you moved. Um, One of the other important things for recycling is to keep everything dry. So it's really important to have a lid. And if you don't have a lid, we now have a supply of lids that you can purchase for $5 again at Public Works. And what if you have too much recycling and not enough cans? We have some recycling bins on Hilltop Road. That's right behind Barnaby's. There you'll find two dumpsters that you can drop off your plastic and paper products, cardboard, etc. Anytime you want. All right, so here's what you should know. What goes in your can, right? It needs to be clean, no food, dry, loose with no bags with the lid on. Not in a garbage bag, a plastic bag, a brown bag, a cardboard box. It needs to be in a labeled can. A lot of people do use cardboard boxes thinking, oh, the box is recyclable, everything in it's recyclable, but once it goes into the trash truck and it gets squished, now you have all that recycling, which could be plastic, glass, metal, whatever, squished in that cardboard box. And I'm telling you, when it gets to that recycling facility, they're just going to pick out that box and throw it in the trash. They're not going to spend the time looking through it to see what's in there. No trash bags for your recycling, and in your recycling can, there should be no flexible bags like grocery bags or Ziploc bags. Straws, styrofoam, all these things are not accepted at all, even if they have a recycling symbol. Our rules are what we follow from the MRF Center. So break down your boxes. If you flatten them, it makes it a lot easier for the township to be able to pick it up. And we want to make sure there's nothing in it. Sometimes people put out the boxes, they have the bubble wrap or the paper in it, or, you know, trash. There could be trash in it. We don't know what's in it, so make sure you take everything out. I have a note that brush starts the first Monday in February. All right, no combinations of paper, metal, plastic. This is an important one. Like we said, in the MRF Center, they separate everything, right? So things need to be separate to start with. If you have something like this, there's a lot of packaging that has a cardboard box and a little plastic window over whatever item you're buying. This plastic window, it doesn't have a recycling number on it. It's not sturdy enough to be recycled. That just goes in the trash, but it has to be removed from this cardboard box. Some other examples, this is one that gets me a lot. These paper mailers that show up on your driveway. A lot of people throw this straight into the can, but the problem is you have paper inside covered in plastic. They're contaminated. In order to recycle the paper, you need to take this plastic bag off, and this plastic bag does not go in your can either. We'll tell you what you could do with that later. A couple other things like these cans. They're lined with like a foil. They are cardboard, but then they have these metal parts on the end. If it's all contaminated and you can't remove them, then they go in the trash. And that's something really important. A lot of people want to recycle everything, and it'd be great if everything is recyclable, but unfortunately, sometimes things are just trash. But in this case, in our opt-in recycling later, you'll find out metal, it can be recycled, but just not in your can, something like this, but at a scrapyard. So if you remove these things, you can recycle the metal, but this part is going to be trash because it's paper lined with a foil, and that's not going to work. Another example, this same thing, paper, foil, metal, plastic, it's all one piece. You want to take it apart, do it. If not, the whole thing should just go in the trash can. Glass jars and metal lids. The glass jar is recyclable. This metal lid is not. It is lined with plastic on the inside, and it's not the right type of metal. So you have to separate these, recycle this, and then this would be discarded. All right. Next one is nothing smaller than the size of a credit card or larger than the biggest laundry detergent container. A lot of people like to put a sign on their recycling can or their trash can, and it's like, please recycle me, you know, because they're done with it, they want to get rid of it. But this MRF center cannot facilitate something that big. So unfortunately, things like that cannot be recycled in the industry. And then nothing smaller than the size of a credit card. Like we said, there's this whole conveyor belt system at the MRF center that uses gears to send things along. So things small like a paper clip or you know, a little cap to your plastic bottle, those kind of things, they can fall off the truck on the way because they're so small and pollute our lands. Once they get to this MRF center, they can get stuck in those gears. They're very problematic. They're just too small to be recycled, and they end up being a problem. So break down your boxes. Like I said, we don't know what's in those boxes. You need to get the materials out. All right. So what is accepted? I'm going to go through specifically what we take. Cardboard and paper, pretty much any color cardboard and paper is accepted, but there are some exceptions. Anything waxed, if it has that like shiny glossy thing and a beetle wooder would beat up on it, that is not going to be accepted because that wax on it is contaminating the paper. Things with foil, I have a bunch of examples, a whole bunch of trash around me. uh, I lost one, but when I say metallic foil, oh, here it is. Metallic foil. So this is like a piece of paper, cardboard type thing, but it's metallic. This metallic is not recyclable. So this would just be trash. Cards with glitter, if they have like singing metal batteries and metal parts on it, or you know, things like that, they're not accepted. It needs to be just paper by itself, no contamination. Metals, we're talking about aluminum and tin cans, things like this. That's basically all they take. So metal is indefinitely recyclable, but at the facility, these are the only kinds that they can handle. Glass, like I said, any just not the lid, but any color bottle or jar is fine. Plastics, anything with the number 1 through 7, bottle, tub, tray, container is accepted. So there is our glass bin. This is through the Pennsylvania Resource Center. It started as a temporary thing. It was here for a week and then a month, and now it's here permanently because it's been such a great success. So in this glass bin would be these glasses. Again, no lids. They don't take any glass. Again, you have to follow the directions. So you can't throw in like a glass window or, you know, a glass cup that you would drink with. But this bin is located at the recreation center. It's in the upper gravel lot near the dog park. It's available 24/7. If the weather is inclement, those lids will be closed and you can just open them and throw your stuff in and close it back when you're done. All right, so what is not accepted? Styrofoam, said that. No styrofoam. Styrofoam containers, cups, packing peanuts, anything. It is just not accepted. Glass, like I said with the bin, no light bulbs, no dishes, no windows. We're talking just glass containers, basically things that you would find at the grocery store. No coated paper. That includes like ice cream containers and hot to go coffee cups. These things are designed to be waterproof. So there is actually a liner on the inside and it's made of plastic. So it's contaminating these materials and they are just going to end up being trash. We do not take plastic bags in the recycling. And this is actually, it's in the video that I couldn't show you. If you check it out, plastic bags are the #1 contaminated worst thing for the recycling industry because of how light it is. It flies up in those gears all the time. And when it gets enough, you know, plastic bags stuck in the gear, they have to manually shut the thing down, clear it all out, you know, to be able to start it up. So the plastic bags are very, very problematic in the recycling industry. And this is grocery bags, saran wrap, bubble wrap, Ziplocs, all of those, any thin plastic that you could like push your finger through is not accepted. And then again, metal. Like I said, metal is indefinitely recyclable, just not at the recycling industry. So screws, nails, those glass jar lids, bottle caps, jewelry, tools, all this stuff, it could be recycled, just not curbside. Actually, and recycling your metal is very good for the environment because recycling aluminum takes 95% less energy than mining for brand new aluminum. Recycling a steel can conserve enough energy to light a 10-watt LED light bulb for more than 24 hours. And steel plants recover 90% of the water they use. So these industries are more environmentally friendly than starting from new. Aerosol cans, those used to be accepted in our recycling a few years ago. The last couple of years, it has not. And that's more hazardous related. If it's not completely empty, they can explode. It's a hazard for the people working in that industry. So they are no longer accepted in recycling. We recommend putting them in your trash. They're not accepted at hazardous waste events or things like that. But if it's placed in your trash, it goes to the incinerator and then it is recovered at the metal from the incineration. Foil. So like we said, only those metal cans, the tin, the aluminum, and the steel. So things like tin foil, the little tin foil yogurt tops, these trays, like the sterno dishes, if you were having a party, all these things are not accepted. They're not the right type of metal for the recycling industry. It, again, could be recycled at a scrapyard. And these cans, so if you have a can like this and the lid's still attached, just give it a little push in and you could throw it in like that. But if you have these ones with the rings and the whole top comes off, this entire thing is really too small, too sharp, too dangerous to be in your recycling bin. So this needs to be either in your trash or to the scrapyard. Mixed plastic, metal, we talked about that, all these things. It needs to be separate. One of the big ones is something with a trigger on it. So cleaning products, hair and skin products that have sprays. Inside this trigger is little metal springs, and these type of plastics are not recyclable. So if you have a product like this, you're going to recycle just the container, and this is going to be separate. It's going to either go in the trash or we're going to give you another option for that later. Caps and lids by themselves. Say you have a water bottle like this, and this is actually a problem. Some people think we don't take these caps, and my husband included, unfortunately. We do take the caps if they're on the bottle. They have to be on the bottle. It's all together. You can recycle it. If you throw this away and you're left with this is too small to go in your recycling bin. So this would have to be discarded in the trash or unless you have another alternative. We send out our recycling guidelines every year in the beginning of January. And last year we worked really, really hard to make some updates, make it very clearly easy to follow the guidelines. And unfortunately, somehow this year, the old draft was put in. So if you have your calendar from last year, I would reference that because the new one this year has the old information, which says no caps. But like I said, the caps, as long as they're on the bottle, is okay. But in the past, the township had just said no caps to make it easy rather than say it's okay if it's on, but not okay if it's off. So now you know. And the last thing is electronic items. These should never be in your recycling or your trash. Electronic items have precious metals that need to be recycled properly, and they should not be in either of them. This is why we have e-waste bins, we have our e-waste events, and there's lots of options. You just need to know where to take things. All right, what should your bin look like? So here we have a yes on the right and a no on the left. We don't want trash, we don't want food, we don't want liquids in your bottles. Those coffee cups shouldn't be in there, all that stuff. So you can see on the right, if you're recycling properly, your bin's a lot more tidy and neat and organized. Curbside, here's what not to do, okay? This is a no. So you can see in there, you have a wine bottle with a metal lid. You have recycling in a bag. You have pizza boxes. I didn't mention that. Pizza boxes covered in grease is contaminated, so they should not be in your recycle bin. They would either be trash or compost. So that's a no. Not everything with a symbol is recyclable. Unfortunately, in this capitalist world, people slap on a recycling sticker on anything and it doesn't mean it's recyclable. And actually, this one on the left really bothers me because it's a tube of toothpaste that says you should recycle it. I am actually a dental hygienist, and I could tell you that toothpaste tube is flexible. It's not the right plastic for the recycling industry. And what Colgate wanted to do was let people know there is a recycling industry for this. However, it was just too confusing. So we'll talk about how to recycle those toothpaste tubes in a little bit, but we just want you to know that recycling, unfortunately, relies a lot on consumer education. You need to know what goes in your bin, what is recyclable, because it's not easy, and the rules vary from township to township. I forgot to mention that. We're talking about recycling in Haverford, but that could be different from recycling in Upper Darby or recycling in Prospect Park or recycling in Montgomery County. You know, our Delaware County, our entire county takes care of the trash. Our whole county is contracted with the incinerator. So all the trash is going in the same place in every township, but recycling is a separate option. That is what the township pays for, and they use their own company. So it varies township by township. These stickers on, or these little symbols on everything that tells you about recycling, they're getting a little more detailed, which I love. It's great. Some of them can be confusing though. You know, you can see the one on the left, it says plastic bottle is recyclable, but plastic label is not. And what that is talking about is things like this. This plastic on this plastic bottle is not recyclable. So in order to recycle this bottle, you have to take off this label. A little hard to know. And sometimes I even see now it actually just says the whole bottle is not recyclable rather than detailing how it should be recycled. Everybody tries to make it easier, but it's hard to explain a lot of these details. That's why we have this class. I like a lot of the ones on the right. These are some of the products I use. So, you know, we're talking about using less waste, being more aware of what you're purchasing. So rather than buying toilet paper from, you know, a brand new tree made into toilet paper, I buy recycled toilet paper. And so some of those labels will say that. And I tend to go in the grocery store and look at not just what I need and which brand I like and what's on sale, but I also look at what is it packaged in? Is that, you know, sustainable? Am I able to recycle it? Things like that. So when in doubt, throw it out. That is our saying. If you're holding up an item and you're like, oh, I forget if this is recyclable or not, throw it in the trash. It is better to throw it in the trash than to do what we call wish cycling. You really wish it could be recycled, so you put it in that recycling bin, but that doesn't make it true. And it actually is problematic because when they have those big pallets of, you know, just number one recycling that they're trying to find a buyer for, if it's contaminated with all these other products, if it's too contaminated, they're going to throw that whole thing out. So by putting things in your recycling can that doesn't belong, you're jeopardizing all the recycling that could be recycled. All right, so I gave you a lot of information. Where do you find this? Our township, Haverford Township, has a brand new website just a couple years ago, and they have a whole page dedicated to the environment. If you go to the categories, it's called Environmental 365, and that has everything you need to know about environmental related issues in the township. So this is where you're going to find a lot of detailed information. So if you see the brush, trash, and recycling symbol with the little truck, that's going to bring you to like the schedule and some basic information. But you want the more detailed information, you're going to go to the Environmental 365, and there you'll find some good documents. There's the flyer that gets mailed. There's also one on here that kind of gives you a breakdown of what goes in and what doesn't. But then there's also a document that we created a few years ago, the Environmental Committee. It's a frequently asked question document. It is very detailed, many pages, and it gets into specifics. Is this item recyclable? Yes or no? Why or why not? What you need to do, that kind of stuff. It was made back before the new township webpage. So in order to find it, you got to search for it or use that link. It's not listed very easily, but it is in there somewhere. But if that is a little too confusing for you, the Environmental Committee created our own website. It's haverfordclimateaction.org. It is not just recycling, it is everything. 43% of US greenhouse gas emissions comes from everyday choices made by average Americans like you and me. This website that we created has everything you need. It's your go-to, specifically for us here in Haverford. You can find ways to reduce your emissions, lower your carbon footprint. There's information not just on recycling, but also electric cars, solar panels, renewable energy, yard and waste, and food choices. There's a lot of information on there. I suggest you check it out, but that frequently asked question document is going to be on there. Our opt-in recycling program that we're going to talk about next will be on there. All the information I'm telling you today will be on there. So don't feel like you have to sit there and write everything down with a pen and pencil. This is what the homepage looks like. So you can see all the different categories. We've maxed out pages in this website. It is loaded with information. You go to one of those categories on the left and you'll find a page with 15 more pages of information. We have videos, we have links. If you scroll down on the homepage, we always list all our upcoming events. So our workshops like this one, we have our solar workshop on Monday. So you'll see what's coming up. It'll have the links to register, things like that. Our e-waste events, our paper shredding events, everything will be listed on this website in a very easy to see format. Just a couple examples of that FAQ document. You could see the only difference on there is it's a little outdated. So it does say that we can recycle aerosols, but we do not. But shredded paper, we didn't get into that one. That's a good one. Shredded paper is too small to go in your recycling can by itself, but it is accepted if you place it in a paper bag. And that's okay because it's paper and paper. It's still the same material. There's the tinfoil, the lids, all that kind of stuff. There's that pizza box question. We do not accept our greasy pizza boxes. The cards with the metal, the glitter, the spray nozzles, all that information's on there. All right, so now that I told you everything we accept and don't accept, I'm gonna confuse you with some exceptions. So like we said, the cardboard boxes, they do have to be broken down, but Public Works says that you can tie it. We would just recommend twine because we don't want to tie it with plastic or something. But the recycling industry says you can leave on tape, labels, staples, things like that. They will be removed before the boxes are recycled. Paper junk mail, it has a little like plastic window in it. That's accepted. They remove that plastic. It's okay. The labels on aluminum cans and these cans, when they melt the metal down, it's such a high temperature that the paper gets evaporated in the heat. So that's okay. Plastic lids can be left on the plastic bottles, but they can't be loose by themselves in the can. And those plastic labels need to be removed from plastic bottles. There are some newer products that kind of don't fall in any categories yet. If you've had Amazon paper bags, but I had one somewhere. Here it is. These kind of paper mailing bags. They are accepted as paper, and they do have these little white spots inside, if you've seen them. That's actually water soluble glue, and it is okay. So you can put this whole thing in your recycling. They have plant-based packing peanuts now. They are not recyclable. we don't recycle styrofoam peanuts either, but these plant-based peanuts are water dissolvable. So you can run your faucet, put these packing peanuts under it, and they dissolve and get washed down in the water and then get treated at the water facility. Compostable, biodegradable, plant-based produce trays. These are really popular in the grocery stores now, in the produce aisle. A lot of things come wrapped in plastic. With this, at least this is not plastic and this is not styrofoam. As a compostable thing, if you compost, that's where this would go. But because it is made of plants and not paper, it does not go in your recycle can. All right, so we were always taught the 3 R's: recycle, reduce, reuse, right? And I'm going to tell you that is wrong, because there is way more R's. So we got 7 R's now. When we talk about the 7 R's of sustainability, we're being sustainable. The definition of sustainability is the avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance and meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the future generation. That's really important. We currently use more resources than we can grow in a year. We use an entire year's worth of resources about the end of July. There's a day, it's called Earth's Overshoot Day. Every year they calculate once we hit using a whole year's worth of resources. So we really need to, number one, rethink our lives, rethink our recycling process, rethink our habits, rethink everything. As a society, we need to do better. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these other things: refuse, reduce, repurpose, reuse. All these things come before recycle. So there's a lot of things you can do to try to avoid ending up with a lot of plastic or paper or metal, or to be able to recycle. So let me give you some examples. Refusing. You can refuse unwanted items: sugar packets, creamers, condiments, napkins, straws. Every time I go through a drive-through, I don't take a straw. I don't want a straw. And they shouldn't be handing out straws here in Haverford anyway. Single-use plastics. Like I said, the straws, the bags, utensils, all these things. Do you really need it? If you just don't take it. A good example, my husband came home the other day with a promotional item, and I was like, "Why did you take this?" He's like, "It's free." And I'm like, "But we don't need it. Do we really need all these things?" And then after reducing. So you can reduce your packaging by bringing your own produce bags and not using those plastic bags. You can go to farmers markets. You can refill some of your products at stores like Shift. Actually, I think Refill's gone. And Mom's Organic Market. You can bring in your own containers, get your products, and that way you're not left with something you have to recycle at the end. So try to reduce buying things that are not recyclable. Single serve stuff. I always buy like the quart of yogurt instead of all the individual ones, and I just portion it out. Or bags of chips. If you buy the big bag, you have your little reusable bags or containers that you could put your chips in. So all these multi-packs, they're designed for convenience, but they're not designed for the environment. Repurposing. So we'll get a little bit more into repurposing in the second half of this, but these metal lids that come on the glass containers that you can't put in the recycling, like I said, they could go to a scrapyard. That's an option. But we also have an organization called Philadelphia Magic Gardens, where they use these lids and they reuse it to make artwork. So there's options out there. You just have to find it. Wooden pallets, those are great. A couple years ago, I made a whole planter out of a wooden pallet. I used some fabric and put some dirt in it, and I was able to grow things vertically. People are very creative with reusing wooden pallets. Reusing and donating instead of getting rid of things you don't need: clothes, toys. Somebody else there can use them. You just have to find the right place to bring it to, right? We have some other options for reuse in town. We'll talk about some of those in the next part. So again, how many R's? We're going to say not 3, it's going to be 7. So after rethink, refuse, reduce, repurpose, reuse, recycle, there's one more R left, and that is rot. So you're not done recycling. When you're done recycling all your products, you can actually recycle your food as well. You can turn your scraps into veggie broth, and then you can compost the leftover vegetable made broth with, either if you compost in your yard, or we have some other options, but just an example of how to reuse food waste. When you compost something, you take all that food waste and it turns into nutritious soil that will help grow plants in your yard, your garden, things like that. So Haverford Township got a grant a little while ago, and they offer 4 months of a free curbside composting service. If you've never used them, you can sign up, and they will collect your food scraps and compost it themselves. And in the spring, you'll get a couple bags of compost out of it. After the 4 months, you would just pay the monthly fee. If you want to learn how to do it yourself, or you want more information on that, we offer a composting workshop similar to this recycling one. And the next one's going to be on May 13th. You would register for it either at Haverford Climate Action, or you'll see it listed in the Have a Good Times and how to register like that. And we also have a discounted composting bin for $30. So if you take this class and learn how to compost, you can purchase this bin from the township and compost in your backyard if you want to do that. All right, so the next portion of this recycling workshop will be how to recycle things that don't go in your recycling can. And that is supposed to be Jessica's portion, but she had some trouble logging in today. So looks like you're stuck with me again. Before we move on to the next one, I just want to see if there's any questions about just recycling in general, recycling curbside, the guidelines. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself. There's only a few of us on here if you want. Right. If there's no questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I have a question. It's about the recycling center in King of Prussia that you mentioned.
Yep.
Do they allow visitors there? I'd love to take some students with me there.
I believe they do. I know some of the environmental committee members have been there before. I have not, and I would love to go too. So
Yeah,
I'll
it
go
would be
with you.
great to organize
Yeah,
them.
yes, absolutely. Reach out to them, and I believe they do. Have you gone, Vic? No, you're on mute. Not good?
He can't talk. I think they said.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the second portion. How do you recycle more than what the township allows you to recycle? Electronic, LED light bulbs, medicine, plastic bags, scrap metal, stores. We're going to talk about an organization called TerraCycle, and then where to bring the things that you can donate and reuse. So the first one would be electronics. The township has 3 electronic bins. There's 2 at the township building, 1 at the recreation center. They're all available 24/7. As long as it fits in that opening there, they say it's about the size of a bread box. If it fits in there, if it has a cord, you can put it in there. You just don't want to put anything with like glass screens that might break, TVs, things like that. But you could fit some small appliances in this. You have extra chargers or cords or something like that. And then if you have anything that doesn't fit in the bin, we ask that you do not leave it next to the bin. You hold on to it until our biannual e-waste events. So twice a year, the township funds e-waste events where we have a company that comes out, takes all the electronics, they empty the bins as well, and they separate everything in there. They recycle what parts can be recycled. They scrap the metal that can be scrapped, and they dispose of those hazardous waste properly. We offer this event twice a year where you can bring your larger items, TVs, air conditioners, things like that. A lot of other townships charge for this kind of stuff, and our township covers all the fees so that there's no cost to residents. Our next e-waste event will be March 14th, and then there's one in the summer. Typically, registration opens up about a month in advance. It will be on the township site, it'll be on our site, and you have to register. It maxes out and it fills up very quickly. So jump on it and register as soon as you can. If you don't want to wait until then and you have something, you can always schedule a pickup through Public Works for $22 an item. They will come to your house and pick it up curbside once you schedule it and pay for it. But there's some stores that you can recycle some electronics completely for free. So Staples is one of them. They're right here, very convenient. They have a whole list of things, you know, printers and things that they would sell in their store. You check out the list of what they take. Batteries Plus is in Springfield. They take a bunch. And Best Buy, they'll take your, you know, vacuums and mops and TVs and things like that. Most of them are free. There is a charge for some TVs and such. And they have a limit of 3 per day. LEDs, this is a brand new recycling program the township put out this year. You can recycle your fluorescent lights at like Home Depots or Lowe's, those like swirly ones. But the LED lights, they have electronics in it, so they need to be separated and recycled properly. We have a bin right outside the township building. When you are on the upper lot and you're walking into the township building, on the right of those doors, you'll see 2 brown, they look like trash or recycling containers. One of them has a different recycling program, and one of them's for the LEDs. And then there's a little tube with the bread tags. But so this is where you'll drop off just the LED bulbs. The other bulbs you would bring, the very old-fashioned incandescent bulbs, they just go in the trash. And we don't take the fluorescent tube lights. They should go to the county's hazardous waste event. Medications and sharps. These are located on the lower side of the township building where the police is. You would enter into the police lobby and you'll see these 2 bins. Medications, they can be prescription or non-prescription. They just need to be in a container. You know, if you have some ibuprofen that's expired, you want to get rid of it, put the whole container in there. They don't want loose pills, so they need to be in a container. The sharps, this would be for, you know, your people like diabetes that have needles that they need to dispose of. And those needles or those sharp things, they need to be in a hard, rigid container. So like an old Tupperware or something like that, just so the people handling this wouldn't get poked. This is a great option. I know they do make little boxes you can purchase and mail in, and you know, that's all paid for stuff. This is a free option, and it's right at the township building. So there's lots of things there that one-stop shop, do all your recycling. Bread tags. So we started this collection a couple years ago. These are those little tiny little plastic clips on your bread bags and your rolls and produce bags and things like that. So we recycle them through Danielle Cares for Chairs. They actually take all these little plastic bread tags and sell them to the recycling industry that wants to use them, and the proceeds that they make from it, they make wheelchairs for people in need. So it's a really good cause. You can drop them off at the township building. It's on the upper side, the upper parking lot next to the LED bulb and the other recycling bin. Or we have a bunch of volunteers throughout the township that recycle certain things, and they collect various programs. And so you can drop it off at 1700 Robinson Ave as well, if that's closer than the township building. Haverford's plastic-free ordinance, a few years ago, we came out with this to try to reduce the plastic contamination and pollution in our environment. We banned single-use bags, single-use straws, We encourage people to bring their own containers or their own bags. And if you don't, there's a small fee for paper instead. So in light of trying to not have plastic bags, we have a whole bag share that's available to the township. So at 304 Davis Road, there is a collection. It's sitting on our volunteers' porch. There's a bin for reusable bags and there's a bin for paper bags. And you are welcome to drop off your excess. You're welcome to stop by and take some if you need some. It's like give a penny, take a penny, you know. We would love to have similar things in stores, which would be very convenient if you show up at that store and you don't have your bag. It'd be great if they had one. Right now, we have the thrift store on Darby Road is participating, and they have a bin of bags if you forget yours, and you can drop it off there if you want. And we're always looking for more stores that would be interested in hosting a bag share like this. So if you know a store, let them know to reach out to the Haverford Environmental Committee. If you are at a restaurant or so and they give you a plastic bag or a plastic straw, they're not supposed to. If they do, there is a compliance line up there and you can report them so that we can try to enforce this and continue to make progress. All right, recycling plastic bags. I said they're very problematic for the recycling industry, right? We make a lot of them. I don't think anything should be used one time. There's no reason why we should have a plastic bag, carry something home, and then throw it in the trash. So, you know, we do need an industry for that. And while you cannot put them curbside, there is bins at a lot of places where you can drop off those plastic bags to be able to be reused. And they end up being made into things like Trek decking material and park benches and, you know, things like that. There's bins at grocery stores, at home improvement stores, Kohl's, a whole bunch of places. And they take way more than just plastic bags. They take bread bags. They take the plastic on the cases of water bottles. They take like baby diaper bags. They take the produce bags at the grocery store. Envelopes from Amazon, these kind of envelopes, they take these. You just need to remove this little label here. Usually just cut it out with some scissors and throw that away. They're really hard to peel off. Cereal bag liners, the plastic on paper towel films, you know, things like that. Deflated air pillows. So when you have a package and it has those little air pillows in those, you can put them in there. You just have to pop them and make sure they're not filled with air still. Bubble wrap, same thing. Unfortunately, you got to pop all those little bubble wrap, you know, the little bubbles in it. But they take a whole bunch of stuff more than just plastic bags. Metal, I mentioned metal is indefinitely recyclable, right? You just have to bring it to the right place. So you would bring it to a scrapyard. The closest one here would be in Lansdowne. They take aluminum, steel, brass, everything. And if you want to bring it there yourself, they'll compensate you for it. They'll weigh out your items. And this is where all that tinfoil and those yogurt lids and those can tops, those screws, those tools, all those things, you would bring it there. But you don't want to bring it there? We got to volunteer for that. We have a network of volunteers throughout the township, and at 1713 Sue Ellen Drive, we have a volunteer that takes scrap metal. She just asked that you separate things. She has 3 5-gallon buckets at the end of her driveway, one for aluminum, one for steel, and then one for other. Steel is magnetic, so easy way to tell what material it's made of. Hold a magnet up to it. So if you hold a magnet to a steel lid, it'll attach to it. If you hold a magnet up to aluminum, it won't attach. So a good way to separate things like that. And on the right, you'll see a list of, you know, common things people use that could be recycled at the scrapyard. Those metal jar lids, like I said, there is a company that will reuse these, but if you don't want to do that, then take it to the scrapyard. Your pipes, your screws, your nuts, pots and pans, things like that. Pretty much anything metal. You know, if you have something really large, it would be nice to give her some notice, make sure that you can drop it off. You can email us and we can coordinate that. String or holiday lights, they are metal inside, so they could go to the scrapyard. They also could go in the e-waste bin. And actually, this time of year, Mom's Organic Market collects them to be able to recycle them too. So some things there's multiple options for, and whatever is more convenient for you. Recycling at Sephora and Nordstrom. So we used to collect personal care at the township building. There was a program that we were able to recycle with, and we collected it. And then that program went away. But now all these stores, Sephora and Nordstrom, have their own recycling containers in there for their kind of things. We're talking about like skincare stuff, chapsticks, lotion dispensers, caps, cosmetic things, mascara and lipstick tubes, plastic eyeliner stuff, all that stuff can be recycled. And when we say Sephora, we mean like the real Sephora stores, not a Kohl's. They don't recycle it at the Kohl's, FYI. Nordstrom Rack, things like that. You would just go in the beauty department where you would buy these kind of items. Ask one of the associates that works there if you don't know where it is. It's usually like in a corner in the back of the store. There are some exceptions on those. No aerosol, no razor, no perfume, nail polish, no wooden eyeliner, and nothing that could be recycled curbside. So, no plastic bottles because you can put them curbside. They don't want to do everything, just the things that aren't accepted. It's important to remove as much product as possible. We're talking empty containers, not things you just don't want to use anymore. If it's still completely full, you need to donate it or give it away. This is only for recycling. The Staples right here, they have a lot of recycling. Like I mentioned, they have some of the tech stuff, the printers, the laptops, those kind of things, but you can also recycle print cartridges like ink and toner, empty writing tools, pens, markers, even crayons, and batteries, alkaline, lithium, rechargeable. You just need an account with them, which is free. It's just like any rewards program. And actually you would they calculate what you bring in to recycle, and you can get some discounts or rewards, I think. The only thing to know is sometimes they have capacity. If they have a bin and it's full and they send it out, they won't collect anymore until they get their new bin in. So there has been times where I walked in and they're like, oh, sorry, we can't take this now. And I'd have to go back a week later. But luckily, they're close by. Some other stores, Mom's Organic Market, I mentioned that. If you don't know that store, they're up in Bryn Mawr, right off of Lancaster Ave. But they recycle natural cork, glasses, phones. They do compost in there. Like if you're there eating, they have a little compost section, but you're not going to bring your own compost in, really. They used to recycle a lot more. They do some other things like the Christmas lights I mentioned. They also do jean recycling. They turn old denim jeans and jackets into insulation. But those two, the jeans and the lights, are like seasonal. So I think they do the jeans in the spring and the fall, and the Christmas lights around Christmas time. So you just have to look out for those programs when they come. Lowe's and Home Depots, they take the plastic bags and they take the CFL bulbs, and they take rechargeable batteries. So, you have your alkaline batteries, you could take Staples. If you have like the Duracell recharger ones and you have your own little charger kit and they're not working and you need to get rid of them, you would bring them to Home Depot. And they take like tool battery as well. Batteries Plus, they're in Springfield, and they take a lot of electronics and lights and batteries as well. All right, alternative recycling. So this is recycling items that doesn't go in your can through a program called TerraCycle. TerraCycle is a national company, and they recycle products that don't go in your recycling can, hard to recycle products. And we have a team of volunteers throughout the township that collect for these programs. And the thing I want to highlight about these programs is you need to sign up for these programs. And once you're signed up, you're able to collect. They send a prepaid shipping label. So we just collect the items, package it up in an old cardboard box we're going to reuse, and we drop it off to UPS. A lot of the facilities are in New Jersey, so they're very close because, shipping is part of carbon footprint. But these items that we recycle through TerraCycle, because we have these programs, we get rewards. And then we are able to cash in our rewards for cash towards a charity. So the Haverford Civic Council is our charity of choice. They are the home to our website. And the money that we make through recycling through TerraCycle funds our website to be able to share all this information with the township. So it's a really great program, and it has been key instrumental in being able to help with that website. We have volunteers that collect all these different programs. We have some volunteers that collect and I send them the shipping label. We have some volunteers that do their own shipping label. We have programs that we used to have that no longer have, and we need more volunteers to help. So maybe you might want to get involved in that. The important thing to know is TerraCycle, their programs that they collect for can come and go. So like I said, in the past, we had the personal care. It's not around anymore. So, you know, these programs, they close and we have to pivot. But we keep a whole list of all these programs, and it's all updated. I'd say monthly, but it's almost like weekly. It's a lot of work. But if you are online, if you're on Facebook, we have a group that is phenomenal. It's called Reduce, Reuse, Recycle, Haverford Township. There's the link. It is a private group, and it is everything you need about recycling. It lists all these programs. Sometimes we have somebody like, hey, my kid's school is collecting this, and you know, it's something that we can't get out in advance, and it's a limited time thing. People go on this page and they ask where to recycle things, and there's so many knowledgeable people, and people have learned that, you know, Jessica and I are not the only ones answering all these questions. Other people do too. It's a very great community resource. So the first program we collect for TerraCycle is the oral care, and this is at the township building. This is going to be where you recycle those toothpaste tubes that don't go curbside. But they take toothbrushes, they take toothpaste tubes, they take floss containers, they take electric toothbrush heads, even the packaging for toothbrushes and toothpaste tubes. So like I said, some of the cardboard that has foil or glitter or designs, they can't go in your recycling can. A lot of toothpaste tubes have those kind of foil and glitter on it. So those kind of cardboard packaging should go into this program. It's important to know they do not take used floss. They do not take little brushes and things like that. They don't take the electric toothbrush handles and chargers that would go in the e-waste bin. And again, I mentioned this before. We are volunteers. We are residents. We are the ones sorting through this, so we really appreciate not having to sort through people's used floss. It's really important to know what goes in these things. But this is located at the township building. It's right next to that LED recycling container and those little bread tag tubes. So it's accessible 24/7. You can drop it off anytime, and then we will take care of the shipping and the recycling for it. We've had this program around for 5 years, and I just wanted to note that we've collected over 600 pounds of oral care recycling in 5 years. So by doing this, the important thing is to know these are items that should have been in the trash that we're taking out of the trash stream. So by recycling more things, we're taking it out of the trash stream, and that is going to lessen our environmental impact and reduce taxes for us residents. The next program we have is pretty popular. It's foil-lined snack wrappers and chip bags. So things like chip bags and granola wrappers and things with the shiny foil on the inside. We have a volunteer that collects that. We actually have two. You just want to empty all the crumbs out, make sure there's no food in that. There is a lot of contamination sometimes with coffee bags and pet food bags and pill packets. People think, oh, it has foil, but this program is very specific. And if we send in too much of the wrong things, this program will close. So we want to be very careful. And again, our volunteer is going to be sorting it all. So it's nice to make sure that we have the right things in it. Next one would be juice pouches. These like Capri Sun type things. These pouches with the straws. They shouldn't go in your trash or I'm sorry, shouldn't go in your recycling. So instead of your trash, we have an option for this. One of the things I didn't mention with TerraCycle is some of these programs are name brand specific, and some of them are any brand. So the oral care is sponsored by Colgate, but they take any brand of these items. The Honest Juice pouches, it's sponsored by Honest, but they take any brand. Some of them are specific, and I'll let you know which ones. Go-Go squeeze pouches. A lot of kids really like these. It started with the applesauce, but they got everything now. They got all kinds of fruits. They got yogurts. There's ice cream ones. That any kind of these little pouches, any brand, we have a volunteer that collects them. Brita. So this one is name brand specific. So this one only is Brita. They don't take any other brands, but they do take a bunch of items, the pitchers, the filters, the packaging for the filters, the water bottles. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And then we have a volunteer throughout the township that collects those. Cleaning and laundry care. This is name brand specific, but they do have a few different brands. Tide, Gain, Downy, and Draft only. They take those plastic pouches that you see in the picture. They'll take the nozzles, these spray bottles from any of those kind of products. The Tide pens, they take the Tide pen, they take the package for the Tide pen, and they take, if you had like one of the really big Tide containers with a little spout on it, you can recycle the container, but you want to take that spout off, and the spout will go in this program. And then in addition to the Tide, Gain, and Downy, and Draft, there is a separate collection just for these spray kind of triggers. So if it's not a Tide trigger, if it's a different brand, or if it's, another cleaning product like this is Granite Countertop Cleaner, this can go in the spray nozzles. That's any brand. It's a whole separate collection for it. But we're looking for like the utility kind of spray nozzles, not the smaller ones. Like if you have a hand sanitizer or something, that would go in the Sephora and Nordstrom. Razors, these disposable razors, even some of the systems and the replacements they take, and they'll separate the metal and the plastic from each one. We just started doing this one again. We started with this, and then the volunteer stopped, and we didn't have a volunteer for a while. Now we have a volunteer again. Most of all the TerraCycle programs that we utilize are free. They don't cost any money. This one does cost money. However, the township, as part of the environmental budget, they pay for the shipping of this program, the LEDs, the bread tags. They cover the shipping costs for these kind of things. Couple more programs, not making a whole slide for everything, but we have one specifically name brand Dunkin' Donuts coffee bags. We have one for phone covers and pop sockets, or those could go to Staples. Baby Bell, the little cheese, they take the wax, they take the wrapper, they take the netting it comes in, all of that stuff. And then there's a pet food brand called Royal Canin. One of our volunteers uses that program, so she collects for it. If you have that brand only, you can drop it off there. There's a couple other stores that collect things through TerraCycle like we do. If you have contacts, they take contact lenses and packaging at WC Optometry and Edmund Eye Associates. You can recycle any brand of pet food or treat bags at a Pet Supplies Plus. Now, the closest ones are in Woodland and Westchester. We would love to have a volunteer collect for these programs. If anybody is, in those areas and can transport, that would be amazing. All right, we're going to move on to some other recycling companies. We're done with TerraCycle now. So the next one I want to talk about is Rabbit Recycling. This is a great company. They take so many products. It is a subscription service. They give you a big Rubbermaid tub. You collect your items, and then you can swap it out. You put it out on your front property. They'll take your filled one and leave you an empty one. And look at their list of what they take. It's pretty extensive. The picture just shows some of the things I have recycled with them. Packaging that doesn't fall into any other categories, my straws, my utensils like spoons and forks, those plastic things. a whole bunch of stuff. They do have a cost to it, but it's very minimal, and they take so many things. In addition, they have a whole warehouse full of these items, and they welcome people to come and tour it if you want to tour them too. Or you can shop for the items. You can take things you need. They try to donate things that they can, or reuse things that they can, and if they can't, they break everything down into things that can be recycled. So programs for reusing things. We have some companies that reuse items, and we have volunteers throughout the township that collect for these different places. So the first one is Spencer's. It's an animal dog food company. They make homemade, fresh, refrigerated food. So they ship their food out to their customers in insulated bags and like styrofoam coolers. So if you get like a styrofoam cooler for like a meal prep service or a medication delivery, things like that, that styrofoam is not recyclable. This company will take it and reuse it for their shipping needs. And they have 2 locations in the township you can drop it off to, and it's a great cause, and they're keeping all these items out of our trash stream. The Providence Animal Shelter, they're always looking for towels and blankets for their animals. You know, they don't want things that have, you know, seen better days, but they can take used things that maybe are not the best for donating to another person. Animals don't care, and they need these things too. So we have 2 locations in the township where you can drop off things like that. I did have somebody who took toilet paper rolls, but they just moved, so I have to edit that slide a little bit. But they take at Ivy Rock Lane, they take boxes, and when I say boxes, I mean not cardboard boxes, but food boxes. So like, you know, you have a box of macaroni and cheese, and you can recycle that box, that cardboard box of the macaroni and cheese, but they take those boxes and they use them to make enrichment things for the animals. They'll fill it with things, and the animals will be able to open it, and it's a good reuse idea. If you want to recycle it, recycle it. If you want to take it there, take it there. There's a couple options. The Historic Society up on Carricung Drive, they do a lot of presentations on, you know, back in the old days when they used to grind their corn and make butter, and they make candles. So if you have any candles, you just have a little bit left, they would love to take your discarded candles, and they melt it all down to be able to show people how to make candles. The only thing is they do not want red candles. Red is a problematic color. And then we have Little Flower Creative Floral Design on Darby Road that reuses vases. They have a metal bin outside their front door. If you have a whole cabinet with 13 vases that you never use and you want to get rid of half of them, go bring them there and they'll reuse them. Chung's Dry Cleaners on Eagle Road, they take back metal clothes hangers as well as the plastic dry cleaning bags. You can bring them back to them. And Teachers Teammates, that's a great organization. They fund all the teachers in Delaware County with donated supplies, new supplies and donated, all kinds of things, pens, papers, you know, things the teachers sometimes spend their own money on. So it'd be nice to be able to help out the teachers. There is a bin at the YMCA where you can just drop things off conveniently. There's 2 other locations in the township that are listed in our directory. Other places to donate items besides Teachers Teammates. There's Grand Stepping Up. It's an organization that collects clothes, food, and toys for children. And these specifically are for grandparents that are raising their children. They do a lot of work in this town, and they're always looking for donations. Fostering Hope Delco is another organization. Community Warehouse Project in Chester County. The reason why that's on there, even though it's not here in Havertown or Delco, is because they actually take mattresses, which is an item that a lot of people have a hard time finding an option for. if you wanted to recycle a mattress, there are companies, but it costs money, and it's almost like $100 a mattress. And it's, you know, is it worth your money to be able to drive it to Philadelphia and pay $100 to recycle it? If you want to, great. If not, there's a place in Chester County. The only thing is they you have to drive it yourself, and I think they only collect on like the first or second Saturday of the month. So you got to check out their website. But they take furniture and all kinds of things. Facebook Marketplace, Buy Nothing Project, all these local free Facebook groups. If you're online, there is a whole network of groups that people give things away, people ask for things, donating from your own home to another home. There's a saying, what's one man's trash is another man's treasure. You never know. You might not need something, but somebody might be looking for something. And it's a nice way to meet your neighbors too. On the right is a whole bunch of other organizations you've probably heard of: Cradles to Crayons, Goodwill, Purple Heart, Green Drop, Planet Aid. These are all places you can donate to, and the convenience of some of them, they'll come to your door and pick it up or that. I just want to mention Helpsy is a great organization because they not only accept donations, they also recycle textiles, which is hard to find. So if you have a shirt that has a stain or a hole and it's not donatable, they will recycle that material. But the organization does take donations. They use the donations to help out less fortunate. They use some of the donations to sell to make money. So, you know, you want to give them your good stuff too. We have a slide on that, and I'll talk about some other things they take. Oh, here it is. So Helpsy, in addition to taking clothes and textiles and things, they take linens, blankets, hats, bags, belts, accessories, and stuffed animals. Stuffed animals is a big one. A lot of places don't want stuffed animals, but they will take your stuffed animals. So they have these bins. They're located right in Produce Junction in Broomall. This is the company. Last summer, the township had a drive for. So just like our e-waste and our paper shredding events, we had a collection for clothes and all the items that Helpsy takes, and we had a collection at the township building, and it was a great success, and we're going to do it again. All right, so I mentioned, you know, moms will collect your Christmas lights and your jeans. There's a bunch of places that have collections, you know, a couple times a year, and that's it, but they're really important. Target will collect car seats, usually in April, and if you drop off your car seat, they'll give you a coupon to get another baby item for 20% off. Lawn signs, those are like plastic with the metal that you put in your lawn. The county will collect them in May and November after election season. But we have a volunteer in town that you could drop those signs off to, and then she will bring it to the county's event. Shift is a great store. They're located in Narberth. They're one of the refillery stores where you can bring your own containers, and you can get like shampoos and laundry detergents that are bulk, where you bring your own container. But they also do a lot of recycling events, and I'm really excited. They have a agenda this year. Sometimes it's, you know, you hear about, oh, we're recycling this thing and it's coming up next week, and you know, you didn't have enough time to save to be able to give something there. So they put out a schedule this year, and unfortunately they just sent it like a couple days ago, so it didn't make it into this presentation quite yet. But they have, each month they're collecting a different item that they will recycle or reuse. And they do a lot of different events where, like styrofoam. There is a place in Chalfont that recycles styrofoam, and we used to have a volunteer that would transfer styrofoam there. They don't do it anymore. But Shift, every once in a while, will have a one-day event where you could drop off your styrofoam and they'll recycle it. Check out their website. It's a great little mom and pop small business. Pumpkins. So in the last 5 years, we started collecting pumpkins. You might have seen you can drop your pumpkins off at Orner's. That's, you know, November, December, after the holidays. You have pumpkins sitting out as decoration. We've actually collected 25 tons in 5 years. And again, these pumpkins most of the time would end up in the trash. So this is 25 tons of trash that our township is not paying for by having this type of collection. They take whole pumpkins. not carved, not painted, nothing on them. And we've coordinated with the Oakmont Farmers Market so that when the farmers market people come from Lancaster on Wednesdays, they bring home the pumpkins with them. And all those pumpkins are feeding animals, chickens and pigs. And so it's a great cause, and it's helping keep it out of our trash stream. So the next ones are the paper shredding, the e-waste, and the clothing events. These are the things the township provides at no cost. We have 2 paper shredding, 2 e-waste, and 1 clothing drives. Those are the dates for 2026. Like I said, the e-waste you'll register for, and that'll come out a 30 days before the event. Paper shredding is no registration required. You just show up during those times. Make sure you have your paper in a paper bag or a cardboard box. And then the clothing drive in June. The county events, the county, in addition to the lawn signs, they do the hazardous waste events. So this is, your old oil or paint thinner, cans of gasoline, pesticides, things that you don't want to dump down the drains, things you don't want to put in your trash. There's 4 events every year. This is 2026's, 2025, they had a clothing drive, sewing machine drive, and bicycle drive all on the same day. And their clothing drive was through Helpsy, just like ours. So hopefully they'll do that again this year. I have not heard any information on it yet, but we've been doing a lot more recycling, a lot more different types of things over the years. All right, so this is just some pictures that might be helpful. There's a lot of programs. There's a lot of things, if you're collecting all these different things and dropping them off at all the various locations throughout the township, it seems overwhelming at first, but we just wanted to give you a little example. This is my home. This is what I do. On the left, you'll see I keep all my yogurt, juice box, and foil in like a little bag hanging on a hook in that little space between my fridge and the wall. Underneath of it, behind it, it's hard to see, I just throw all my plastic bags, my, all the cereal liners and the plastic from the water bottle cases, those kind of stuff. I shove it all back there, and then, once a month I'll pull it all out and I'll bring it to the grocery store. Next to my sink is little containers. I use like some old styrofoam cups or plastic cups or broken cups or whatever to collect in, and then I let my things dry, collect my tin foil, my caps and things like that, and then I'll put everything into little paper bags to be able to drop off to wherever they need to go. The one on the bottom in the middle is in my hallway closet upstairs, and I'm collecting my oral care supplies and my spray triggers and glasses and whatnot. And then, once I have enough, I'll sort them out and drop them off. And then on the lower right, that's my scrap metal. So I'll have a bag for aluminum and a bag for steel, and then I'll drop it off to the person who takes the scrap. So just a little, we don't want you going out buying things. Use what you have around the house. Use an old container. Start collecting things. Put it somewhere convenient. Collect your items. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Start with whatever program you use the most. One at a time, and you'll work your way up to collecting everything like me. All right, we're wrapping up here. Thanks for bearing with me. We just want to let you know, small changes lead to big changes. There's no such thing as a way. When we throw something away, it has to go somewhere. So we need to be more mindful and rethink our whole lifestyle. We don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need everyone doing zero waste imperfectly. Little by little, the more you can do, the better. Here's a slide of the upcoming workshops. We got a lot of workshops. We redo a lot of them, the solar, the EV, the composting. We do them several times a year. So if you can't make the next one, there'll be one coming up later. We are tentatively planning our Earth Day for April 2025. Sorry, April 25th for this year at Bailey Park. In the past, the Park and Rec have hosted Earth Day in conjunction with us at the CREC. But the CREC, they do a lot of service projects there. They're still going to do that, plant the trees, plant the gardens, things like that. But we are going to try a different location for the tabling events, which usually take up the whole parking lot, which means there's no parking for everybody. So Bailey Park seems like a nice central location. We're going to give it a try this year. So come and join us and find out what we're up to and how you can help. At our Earth Day and our Township Day, we always collect for some of these TerraCycle recycling programs. You'll see us with all our buckets and stuff, and you can bring your recycling there if that's convenient for you. And then again, all of these events are listed on our webpage, Haverford Climate Action, all the way down at the bottom. We'll have the details, the links to register and stuff like that. And then lastly, just how to contact us. Like I said, there's the haverfordclimateaction.org. That's our webpage. That's where you'll find all the recycling information and all the programs and addresses. Everything that I told you today, it's going to be on that website. There's a PDF. We update it. It's always updated on there. We want you to always check the PDF to make sure before you go and drop something off and find out that person moved and that program's no longer there and now they have a new resident that doesn't like people showing up. So check and make sure, because that document changes all the time. We're constantly updating it. It's a live document. So it's on the website, but then there's also a monthly mailing newsletter. If you would rather get it mailed to you once a month, we will send an email. It'll highlight what programs ended, what programs are being accepted, what limited time collection, any details will be in the email so that you know. You would just email us at haveswitch@gmail.com. That's the email for the Environmental Advisory Committee. You can email us questions. You can email us to volunteer. You can email us to get the link to join our meetings. They're open to the public. The Haverford Environmental Advisory Committee is a bunch of volunteers throughout the township. We are appointed by the commissioners, but we are just volunteers. We are not paid township staff. This is just a passion of ours that we do. So I hope you enjoyed this. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram, barely. And we have a lot of videos on YouTube. If you check out our YouTube, all the videos are on our webpage as well, but we have all these workshops that we've done, we've recorded, and we have them for you to be able to view at any time that's convenient for you. So thank you all for joining, and I am going to open it up to questions again. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Thank you, Melissa, for an unbelievable presentation. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to have lunch.
All right, thank you.